Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's get started. Would you all stand with me for a prayer and a pledge of allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, just praying that you will give us grace and knowledge and wisdom as we prepare things for the county and all the business that we need to tend to this morning. I pray you'll be with all our first responders in our county, Lord, and our nation this morning, our state, and be with them and keep them safe as they get out and put their lives on the line for us. All these things we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to Commissioner's Court, our first of the month of August. Today is the 8th, 2022. It's just after 9 a.m. Item number 1 is our public comment time. If there is anyone that would like to address the court on a non-agenda item, this is a great time to do that. Of course, you may speak on an individual item when we get to it. I see no hands. We'll move on to consideration and possible approval of our minutes from our last meeting, July 25th.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve that set of minutes made by Commissioner Fitch.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parker. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thanks to Joyce for preparing those. Item number 3 is a report from our commissioners regarding road work status, what we're working on and where we're doing it. Commissioner Parchman.
Well, we finished up with County Road 1362, got it ready to chip seal. We've been cutting a few trees and doing a little scabbing, so that's about it.
Okay.
We had some trees down in Precinct 2 on 2200 and 2400. We've been patching and paving on 1220, 1240, 1165, and 1230, and we finished up mowing this week. Thank you.
Well, last week we picked up, week before last, we picked up trees on 3070 and 3265. Had a lot of dead trees that was falling, big limbs were falling down, so we just cut them down. And we got in the part last week, we started tearing up County Road 3425, approximately 2 miles to get ready for the chip seal.
We last week tore up a section of County Road 4260, got it packed back in, ready to go scab it here in a few days. Kind of letting it set and let some traffic run over it and make sure it's ready to go. We started last Wednesday, I guess it was, on a culvert, big culvert that we had that was the whole bottom of it collapsed. When we went and pulled it out, the whole bottom fell out of it. And so we got it put back in. We're trying to get the head walls back up and all on it right now. We still side cutting. We're down around the school area trying to get it ready for next week when school starts, and trying to get it cut back some and fixing to start scabbing some more roads here. We've got 2 that we're going to seal coat when Dana gets ready to do his that he's got out there. We're going to try to do it too. So hopefully within the next week or 2 weeks we'll be ready to seal coat those 2 roads.
Thank you. Item number 4, we have a special guest today. Nathan Tafoya is the Executive Director of the Mount Pleasant Economic Development Corporation. Nathan, welcome. Step up to the mic, tap it, make sure I have it turned on. There we go. You're live. All right. Nathan is working on 24 things every day of the week, and we're grateful that you're out there doing it.
Thank you,
sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Judge Lee and Commission. I don't have an incredibly elaborate presentation to discuss. I'd sent a letter. I don't know, maybe you could advise Judge Lee if you need me to speak that out loud or something, but
do you want to refer to it?
I can,
Do you
but
need to? Do you have a copy for yourself?
I have one on my phone.
Okay.
But hopefully you read it. So I've been in Mount Pleasant for about 4 years, and in that time, I've had a number of communities from Tatum to. I've spent a lot of time in Winfield, especially when their school kind of went down. There's been a lot of the smaller communities in the county that have approached me just asking for assistance with strategic planning. They're like, can you do anything with assistance to help us recruit this retailer, or give us some advice on zoning and what we might think about? And so, and we've done that throughout throughout my tenure here. I've been glad that I've presented at City Council in Winfield. We've been, as an EDC, we've actually done a few projects outside of the city that have been in the county. I know some of the county commissioners have asked, about, we just did, and I'll give a quick update on that in case, I know you might have seen it, but just for the public's benefit, you guys approved just a few months ago a grant, a $30,000 commitment towards a road improvement near Diamond C, and we were awarded that from the Texas Department of Agriculture. So there's a $30,000 from the EDC, from the city of Mount Pleasant, and from the county, and then from Diamond C itself, and that will be, we think there's the multiplier there is just amazing. The state will be contributing more than $600,000 towards that project, so that's a great bang for your buck, and in that realm. But I would imagine that we hope to utilize those types of practices and have a little bit of resources to be able to allocate and commit to the communities outside of Mount Pleasant, because economic development does not occur in a silo. Jurisdiction or municipalities or counties are the only entities that really care about invisible lines and jurisdictions. Economic development is a whole, as you guys well know. There are communities in Pittsburgh and neighboring counties that affect what happens in Titus County, and so there are things that immediately affect Titus County and Mount Pleasant, and we'd like to be able to broaden our resource base to be able to allow us to be able to have a more broad-based approach to economic development, and to allow us legally to be able to participate in assisting some of the companies, the communities, and the projects that are outside of Mount Pleasant but in Titus County. And I think we have the political will and the value add and just the longevity and expertise to kind of get those kind of projects done, and I just respectfully submitted that for your consideration. And if there's any, I just stand for any questions. So
yeah,
if we wanted to refer to the contract,
have several questions, but
sure.
I'll let these guys ask any questions that they might have. You'll recall back on the first part of July, Nathan had sent this letter kind of discussing what he's discussing here. In this, he asked for $300,000 per year from Titus County. This would, let's see, an annual performance contract for economic development services, terminable biannually after review. This would allow the EDC to provide services and assistance to projects, communities, and companies located outside of the Mount Pleasant city limits and its extraterritorial jurisdiction, but within Titus County. My questions here are, and some of them I know the answers to, some of them I don't. Your department consists, and first of all, I didn't recognize Erman Hensel, longtime city councilman, but also one of the primary members of the Mount Pleasant EDC, and he's here to back up and support Nathan and make sure that all of our questions get answered, or chime in if you like. Your office consists of you and Jeanette, and you occupy that space up there at the chamber office. How is your office funded currently?
Sure. So in 1994, the city of Mount Pleasant voted to allocate a sales tax, and in our case, it's 3/8% of the sales tax. The city sales tax portion is directed specifically to economic development efforts into our organization. So we are a corporation. We're a public corporation, but we are a standalone corporation, Texas corporation and legal entity, and we work and serve on the behalf of the city of Mount Pleasant. And so, as many of you are aware of a larger project that we're working on outside of the city of Mount Pleasant, and when that occurs, legally we are supposed to approach the county, and because we're operating outside of our jurisdiction, we have to, let's just say, for instance, we did a project recently for Cox Concrete, and we gave them a little more than $50,000 for an improvement they were doing and hiring a few folks. We need to approach the county and say, that's technically not our jurisdiction. Can we operate in your jurisdiction and benefit a company there? And so the way we're funded, the city of Mount Pleasant tax dollars, and we all know that it's the entire county, it's the region. We know that our retail trade area is more than 100,000 population. There's a lot of people that money comes into, but by state law, we're only allowed to serve and benefit the city of Mount Pleasant. So, which is one reason why, when it comes to this this particular portion, when it comes to surrounding communities that this is an ecosystem, correct? And it's a way, it would be a way to allow us to participate outside of that, and not have to find, creative ways or go for a grant, or and have to wait that time period to allow some sort of assistance to come to a neighboring community or project.
What I'm struggling to understand is the concept of the county giving money to the EDC. And I'm not saying that there's not a point where maybe that is appropriate, but I'm looking at this as, everybody in the county pays those sales taxes that funds this department. With our permission, we would love for you to be able to function in every corner of Titus County as well as within the city. But my question is it appropriate for the county to give a substantial amount to help fund those efforts? That's where I'm personally struggling and trying to understand. If everybody in the county contributes to this effort through sales tax, I know that the city does contribute over and above that. And how do they do that? I believe they pay the salaries in your office.
The city, the organization pays my salary, yes, and we funnel it.
The organization or the city?
The organization. So we use the city to. We do a lot of. It's like I said. It's a really weird quasi-public entity. We're a separate corporation, but we use the city for benefits and salaries, if that makes sense. But we have our own bylaws and that sort of thing. So it comes from our budget. My salary all comes out of the economic development fund. If that makes sense.
Is that different in years past?
No.
Didn't the city pay those salaries? Okay.
No, sir.
So all of your salaries and benefits are paid for by that half-cent sales tax that's
Yes.
raised through sales taxes.
That's correct.
So again, how does the county stand alone as far as making, say, a $300,000 contribution to that entity if we're already paying sales taxes that fund that entity?
So good question. How would I respond to that? I think one would be define substantial, and then define. That still doesn't mean, regardless of what gets funneled into the sales tax. If anything, the county's being disenfranchised because somebody in Winfield is buying something at our Walmart that funds the city of Mount Pleasant, and it doesn't go back to Winfield. So, if anything, there would be if in terms of plumbing, I just had a recent plumbing problem. The flow is going one way, and if anything, all that money's coming into Mount Pleasant, which is what economic development is. But I'd like to broaden. So, I'll give you a quick lesson on economic development. The reason why the country and anybody who's a patriot was upset in the 80s, 90s when a lot of companies started moving things offshore, China, all these places, is that was a much larger scale of what economic development does. You want to be able to have manufacturers, people who make or export a product, more than 50% of their product or services outside of the region. Why? So that's our prefers, our Diamond Cs. They sell, you can buy a Diamond C trailer, you can buy a preferred product, but we're not their customer. That stuff's coming from Oklahoma. We're getting Montana dollars, Oklahoma dollars, Brazilian dollars into Mount Pleasant. That's how you grow an economy. Otherwise, you're circulating money within the community. So in that sense, if we want to narrow that down and just keep coming down to a micro level, we'll talk about Titus County or even Mount Pleasant. So in a sense, Mount Pleasant, the city itself, is benefiting greatly from that. There's a lot of resources here that make Mount Pleasant a great place to live and be, but that money is going one direction. And what I'm asking is a specific set aside using, in some cases, federal funds, so it's not necessarily as impactful to maybe to the county as maybe would be in other years, and allowing us to put that money back into the constituents. So I consider myself a public servant. So whenever I stand up in front of Mount Pleasant or I give a State of the Economy address, I truthfully and genuinely mean, gosh darn it, our money goes back to the community. Like, it's not to buy, we're not buying the latest iPhones and Lamborghinis. We have to put that back. We have a business park, a 200-acre business park on I-30. We have $3 to $4 million in the ground. Nobody sees it. It's underground. There's 12-inch water lines, 12-inch wastewater lines. There's water there. We just paid $30,000 to bring fiber there this year to make sure we have 1 gig speeds. We're making sure it's ready, right, and prepped. And so a lot of economic development has to do, if you're, and to use a farming analogy, it's the rowing and the clearing the land and the seeds and then praying for rain. So a lot of it, you're reducing risk, time, and cost to a company or a community. So a lot of our funds go right back into the community and to be able to sustain and create a foundation for future growth and economic development. But I think my answer to that specifically would be that you're right, it is going one way. We'd like the opportunity to be able to invest it back outside of the city of Mount Pleasant and having that. So we have a revolving loan fund. If there's an example that might help here, we also were a recent benefit of a revolving loan fund. One of the reasons for that is we can, as a Type A organization, participate in what most people might consider a sales or retail operation. We can't allocate funds. We can provide technical expertise and transaction expertise on those types of things, which we're kind of doing now for the city. But we went after this fund so we could, if there was someone who wanted to start a candy shop or a pastry shop, I don't know, a sewing place, that we could give them a fund and give them a loan at a lower interest rate than what the banks could do. If there were some things that the banks couldn't just participate in, they're like, if that's really risky, it's a startup. A lot of banks don't like to participate in startups. That we could come in and be like, hey, we'll help you get started. You want to pay for nice signage and some marketing? We'll put that money back. It comes back into the fund. It's a revolving loan fund, and then hopefully when that's paid back, we put it back into another company. So that's outside of our funds that we get specifically from the EDC. Hello.
I'm not sure I heard the answer to my question there. I agree with all that.
Oh.
I am so glad we've got that half-cent sales tax that in these good times is continuing to go up. But specifically, your request today asking for $300,000 from the county would be tax dollars that are provided by everybody in the county, including everybody that lives in the city. $300,000 is a little bit over 1 penny's worth of county tax. And so again, as a citizen within the city, just speaking for myself, everything that I buy in this city, I pay 8.25% rather than 7.75. I mean, I signed up for that. I'm happy I did it, but I pay that extra money, and we bring in a good deal amount into the EDC. So again, why would the county give additional money in the form of taxpayer dollars into that entity that comes from real estate, assets, as opposed to saying, EDC, you need to work with the half-cent sales tax that we, the county, gave you, even though it was voted on within the city, but we all know that city folks, for the most part, pay as much city sales tax as anybody in the city, generally speaking.
I don't know if you bring this up to your county attorney, it's illegal. We can't do that. So and that would be the reason why the city voted to have the voted to have that portion of sales tax allocated. Okay. What would have to happen is that the county would have to go to the ballot box, and they would have to vote to allow.
Okay, well, you just said something that maybe is helping me to understand this. Are you saying you can't use the monies in your coffers to do development outside of the city limits because you're not allowed to? In other words, you can't go out there and build a spec building out in the county. Correct. Or buy real estate for a future park, economic development park outside of the city limits. You've got to spend those dollars in there.
That's correct. Even
though there are probably some examples where you're obviously spending some maybe time and effort dealing with Winfield, and there may be other examples where part of your day and Jeanette's day is allocated towards talking to a company that specifically tells you we want to be in the county, we want to be outside of the city limits. And you're saying there's a limit as to how much direct dollars you can spend outside of the city limits.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
I think that connection is finally being made for me. We can't say, well, I know that it was voted on by the city, but we're all paying into that, so now we want you to go and build us, a spec building, out in Chapel Hill.
Correct.
You say, I can't do that. Even though you helped contribute to my office, I can't legally go and do that because of the way that this, what is the number? Something A.
Type A, yeah.
Type A was put together back 27 years ago.
And that's correct. And one of the reasons why, without having to go to vote, it was for simplicity's sake, but also the reason why we asked for an annual and having it just a very short-term contract was to allow us to perform and to show you, hey, these are the benefits. This is what the community is getting, and if we're not performing, you're not getting the value, don't continue. But there are enough live projects, most of which, and I know that isn't fair, but I can't talk about. But we've been approached. I can say this: that the people who were working with the Winfield, who bought the Winfield school, came and they wanted to talk to the bankers. We had breakfast and they had lunch with local bankers, but they asked, "Can you help us? Can you participate?" There's some things, and I was like, "I can't, guys. I'm sorry." And that was just one of about 6 or 7 things that have happened.
That's a great example. Yeah, we, the EDC, can't give you money that we could give you if you were inside of the city.
Correct. And that just, it's a lot of those things happen quite often and have happened a number of times, about 4 or 5 times in the last 5-6 months alone. And it just really, with one of the projects we have going on countywide, and one of our more regional projects, it's really just be kind of coming. I thought it was time and to make the request.
And you can legally differentiate your sources and uses of funds within your organization.
Yes.
To be able to use that seed money that's provided by the county to help Mr. Winfield School project.
Absolutely, and it's just a separate fund, an account.
All right, good. That's my only questions, and you finally made the connection for me.
Yes, sir.
Is that a one-time contribution or a yearly contribution?
It's at your discretion, but we asked for an annual performance contract for $300,000 per year for the period, so it would be a total of, at the end of the 2 years, $600,000. And we specifically, in the next bullet point, brought up ARPA funds and those types of things if there was consideration. So that those are the terms. I'm sorry.
And I don't think we've had this conversation. Do you know if we can use any of our ARP monies to do something like this?
And that's another consideration on how this would break out, on how we're using it, and what the stack or the mix of an allocation that you might give us would be. And so we have not gone as far as that.
That's probably for us to figure out along with our consultant.
Okay, yes. And we'd be happy to abide by those terms if it was specifically infrastructure or, wet utilities or dry utilities. But obviously there would be built-in restrictions using ARPA funds. But
Well, I know that you're working on stuff that's so big, it couldn't go on inside the city. And that's great news for everybody, not just for the county. It's not a city versus county deal. It's, we're all in this together, whether it's in the county, whether it's in the city, there's going to be equal blessings for everybody. And so I think that it's a wise thing for the county to be involved and to give Nathan the ability to pursue projects that might, land in the county and outside of the city limits. So, and I know he's working on stuff that would be just that. Thank you very much. Questions, comments for Nathan? Did you bring your
I want to
checkbook?
check on that ARPA money.
Yeah.
See what we can use. I mean, $600,000 over the next 2 years, we would have to, in the 26 to spend it. So that's one question I want to find out. We're going to meet with them people Thursday, I think, this week. So
I'll make a motion to table this until we find that out.
and start planning. Thank you, Nathan.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you for coming.
thank you.
Are you guys lost? Would you like to speak?
Yeah.
Well, we just heard from Nathan, and I will recognize the Coxes back here. Is there anything? I know you're kind of economic development related. Anything that you want to chime in on here, or are you just here to watch?
Brian, they're here to, Brian had called me the other day. He wanted to express some concerns that they have with the ARPA funds and what they're asking our vendors to go through and all.
Okay, well, we don't have that on the agenda.
Well, that's why I told him to come for the public comments, but.
Okay.
I finally get here at 9 a.m., but employees at other ideas.
Okay. Well, why don't I open back up item number 1, which is not something I would normally do, but I don't have anything on here that looks like would be the appropriate place to plug you in. If you want to take a couple of minutes,
Yes, sir.
we will postpone our next agenda item.
I appreciate that, Judge. And I guess my concern is obviously there's a lot of.
Step up to the mic, because there's not only us that need to hear you, but folks in the audience, because we're filming this. We've got a huge worldwide audience that watches this.
So first of all, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Commissioner Parker, and thank you, Judge, for opening this back up. And whenever we received the bid packet, obviously there's a lot of strings and a lot of red tape attached to the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds, and which when I contacted some of the commissioners, I was really concerned well, I really didn't review that. It's about 65 pages long. Well, just 10 pages into that, my sister and I discovered the different requirements of the equal opportunity clauses, which we abide. We're an equal opportunity employer at Cox Concrete, but the regulation stipulating that any print advertising, our company must put that on there. But then opening up our company to federal jurisdiction, of allowing the federal government to come in and 100% audit your books, and then continue on to the point to where there's penalties that if you can't get the provided product to the commissioner in that amount of time, there was penalties of $100 fixed or $100 per day, depending on which addendum you looked at, which then an addendum was issued to one bid but not the other as well. And so each contract isn't being treated fairly, and the addendums aren't going broadband. And then also, but my biggest concern is receiving these funds, whether it's the way we received them or the way we filed for them. guys, we're following the federalism. And I know a lot of us in this room have quoted before Ronald Reagan, the most dangerous words is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, right? And you read into those 65 pages, and the government's here to help. But we're succumbing to federalism by accepting these funds. And I understand that $6 million will do a lot for Titus County, and it will. But there's got to be different ways of going about it. And what I'm afraid of is that I know personally our company will not file a bid because of these funds and these red tapes, and that we're going to end up having to purchase materials from either out of state or away from vendors when we have perfectly good vendors here in the county. And we want to keep our money in the county. I think that all of us in this room want to agree that we want to support local business. And so, obviously, that I wasn't here at the meetings before, but as a young person in the community trying to run a business and grow and expand, this concerns me. Because my whole life I've looked up to the gentleman sitting in front of me. I've watched you grow. I've watched you run for political office and someday aspire to take on a political office at one day. And it hurts me as an individual to know that we're passing, then reading what's in it. The exact same things that each and every single one of us gripe about what happens in Washington every day. And we're succumbing to federalism and becoming just like those guys. And so that's my concern at the end of the day is and anytime there's a question, it's referred to an auditing company, a consulting company in Tyler. I didn't vote for someone out of Tyler. I voted for the gentleman sitting at this table, the people that are sitting behind me and next to me. And that's my biggest concern. And then if I may ask, well, how much is this auditing company getting off of this? A percentage, a flat fee? And that's a question for the court that I have.
Yeah, it's a flat fee.
It's a flat fee of how much?
Oh, what is it? Under $300,000.
$190,000. So, I mean, that's my concern, is that we're, in this court, we're passing, then finding out what's in it. And that's something that on a personal level, I've heard each and every one of us complain about what's happening, whether it's in our state legislature or national legislation. And we're succumbing to federalism. And me, as a young entrepreneur and conservative, I'm not okay with that. So, thank you, Judge, for opening back up public comments for that.
You're welcome. Larry? Okay, let's move on to item. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's right. We did make a motion to table. We made a motion to table item number 4. Second by Commissioner Fitch. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you for reminding me. Item number 5, discuss donating a 2003 tanker fire truck to Sugar Hill Volunteer Fire Department that was previously loaned to them back on March 28, 2022, with possible action. Sounds like a Commissioner Applewhite.
Yeah, the other day they had a blowout on the truck, and they was just wondering when they was going to be able to just put money into a truck. They wanted to, we gave them 6 months to get their stack together, and I looked at the runs, and they've been doing pretty good on the runs and everything, and that way they could take this truck and make it theirs, and they can put the insurance, they mess it up or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's time they've had it long enough to prove themselves when you just go ahead and give it. I want to go ahead and give that truck to Sugar Hill.
Do you feel like they've proven themselves?
Mm-hmm. I put in the ARCA deal about they needed a repeater out there on their antenna, and that way they won't miss any of the calls that doesn't get to them. Some of the phones out there it's not very good, and I told them I'd put it on ARCA deal, and that would help them even more, because they have been attending a lot of, I looked at the run of last month, they done quite a bit.
I haven't seen that, honestly. And I haven't seen a chief come in any chief meetings yet.
Ronald Collins has been going to them, and But as soon as I guess he gets out of working out of town, he is the weekends. Most of the calls the weekends he's been running too.
Okay. And in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir. I make a motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Applewhite.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitch. Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 6, consider and possibly approve accepting a donation of 3 underground fuel tanks from Jackson Oil to be used as culvert upgrades. Total approximate value of $4,500. As many of you may have seen, Jackson Oil is replacing some fuel tanks, underground fuel tanks up there at their location that were put in about 1977, as I recall, is what he told me. And those were 8-foot diameter and about how long?
22 foot.
22 foot. And Mr. Burge contacted us and said, hey, I'd like to make a donation of these 3 tanks in case the county could use those. And probable use, likely use would be culverts and large culvert need operations. 8-foot diameter is pretty big culvert. So upon removal, he checked into this, just salvage value. Each of these tanks would be worth about $1,500. I think we did accept, would like to accept all 3 of these, right? And so therefore, as we've done before, in order to accept a donation from our citizens like this, we would need to approve accepting this donation. So consider this a $4,500 donation. No telling what it would cost if you were to go out and buy a culvert of that size and of that strength and length. Certainly be a lot more than this. So this was a win-win for everybody, I think.
Make a motion we accept it.
Motion to accept is made by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Applewhite. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 7, it's that time of the year again. Consider and possibly approve an order to adopt the Titus County Clerk's Office Records Archival Plan for fiscal year 2023. And I've got a document here that states exactly that. This is something we do about this time of the year each and every year. This is where Joan has to develop and plan and anticipate how much she will bring in and how much she will spend as part of the archival plan. Joan, would you like to tell us any more about this?
This is just what we do every year. I examine the books that are eligible and the amount of money that I feel that is available to restore these books. And for the coming year, I wanted to restore volumes 53 through 63. So that will be 11 historical books. They will be they'll be taken apart. The pages will be deacidified. They'll be placed in acid-free sleeves, and it'll be rebound in a nice leather binding that will last for years. So I'm just asking that you approve this plan.
And how do these funds, $47,000 projected revenue and projected expense of the same amount, how does that compare to what we've done in the past? About the same?
It's about the same. You know, it depends on how many real property records are filed. Each record generates $10 per statute. Local government code 118.011G is the one that establishes the authority to charge this.
Okay.
And the Commissioners Court in the past has adopted that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Make a motion we approve it.
Motion to approve the clerk's archival plan for the upcoming fiscal year is made by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parker. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This resolution asks for each of our signatures.
Thank you.
I pass this down to you. Item number 8, I need to give you a little bit of background here. Item number 9. Item number 8. No, I'm skipping ahead of myself. I don't want to forget item number 8. Item number 8 is what we also do this time of the year. This is where we don't vote on these salaries, but we record them into our minutes. So they are read into the minutes, they are recorded into our minutes, but this is not a matter where we say, yes, we approve those salaries. That's not what we are doing here. So these are not requests. This is what the district court is telling us, the decisions that they have made on the salaries of the personnel that are within the Judicial District Court. So let me kind of give you a little bit of background here. We've got multiple positions here. It's stated there in the in this document that they have given to me. So let me kind of briefly read over one of these, and they're all pretty well the same. Whereas the official court reporter, we're talking about the court reporter position, we have 2 of them in the 276th there and 76th. We have one, Linda Carroll, presently drawing a salary of $69,025 per year. They are stating that there is going to be an increase of $575 per month, making a total salary now $75,927. And just for your information, that's a 10% increase as we are discussing amongst our staff. So that is then allocated among the 4 counties within the 276. Camp County, Marion County, Morris County, and Titus County. That $6,900 a year increase in that position, $3,037 of that is related to Titus County, $1,100 Morris County, $949 Marion, and $1,200 in Camp County. And so the idea here is going to be the same in each of these positions, but I do want to read through each of these. The second item that we're going to read into the minutes, this involves the 76th Judicial District, and this is the other court reporter, Cresta Lefevre, and she presently draws $69,025, the same exact amount, and a raise of $575.21 per month to yield that same identical salary with the 10% increase of $75,927. And that's split among Camp County, Morris, and Titus. So in this one, we pay right at 50% is allocated to Titus County, $3,500 out of that $6,900. The next one is the auditor salary. As you know, the district judges decide who our auditor is, and it's designed that way for a purpose. This next order says that the effective October 1, the salary of the auditor of Titus County is hereby fixed at $68,750, which shall be paid annually by the Commissioners Court of Titus County. Then we have the second and third and fourth positions within the auditor's department. The first assistant auditor salary is fixed at $53,851.20. The next one is the second assistant auditor. Salary is fixed at $46,384 annually. And then the third assistant auditor is fixed at $36,774. And then last but not least, the part-time assistant auditor salary is hereby fixed at $19,800.80. So again, and that position is totally within Titus County. That is not a position that is shared and allocated amongst those other counties. Moving on to the next position, it's hereby ordered that effective October 1, the salary of the District Court Coordinator is fixed at $41,579.20, and her name escapes me, James. What is it? Kelly Rumbo is that position. That is the District Court Coordinator, salary fixed at $41,579. The next order fixes both of the 2 district court bailiffs, so this is for 2 people. It's hereby ordered that effective October 1, the salary of the district court bailiff of Titus County is fixed at $54,683, which shall be paid annually by the Commissioner's Court. This rate is for each of the 2 district court bailiffs. Moving on to the next position. It is hereby ordered. Do we need to read in the Auditor of Camp County?
No, you don't. This was just action that was taken at that meeting. These are all filed in the
Okay.
same place as district clerk's office.
So
And
these last few here are the auditor and assistant auditor there in Camp County and Marion County and Morris County. So those do not affect us. So we have read into the minutes those that affect us. So let's see, what kind of action does this take? I don't know that it takes any. So we have accomplished our objective here. We have read into the minutes those positions as determined by the district judges. Item number 9, consider and possibly approve a resolution in support of state funding to match competitive federal rail programs. Just a wee bit of background here. As you know, I am one of your 2 appointed delegates that serves on the board of the Northeast Texas Rural Rail Transportation District. And this is an entity that consists of 12 board members, 2 representatives from each of 6 counties: Titus, Franklin, Hopkins, Delta, Hunt, and Collin County. And we are doing everything we can to find dollars for the improvement of the NETEX rail that starts in Winfield, continues on through Sulphur Springs, up to Commerce, back down to Greenville, and terminates on the west side of Greenville. 66 miles of rail, and it is in tough shape. It is classified as a Class 1 rail, meaning it has a maximum speed limit of 10 miles an hour. We really need to get that thing up to Class 2. We have an operator that is pouring nearly everything he makes carrying rail up and down that 66 miles. He's pouring it back into that track because he has not only some tangible objectives that he has to meet, but within a certain amount of time. The board has made significant financial contributions into that track. Just recently, about $550,000 that we are putting into the track in the form of rail repairs, ballast replacement, tie replacement, and significant bridge repair. We have asked and begged and filled out grants for years. We've asked state TxDOT, but unfortunately rail is not on their radar at this time. There are quite a few federal rail program grants that are available. And much like we have to do when we have a grant opportunity, we have to come up with a match. Sometimes that's a 10% match. It could be as much as a 50% match. TxDOT, in their infinite wisdom, has decided not to fund any monies that would be used to match federal grants if and when they come along. So as these grants are offered by the federal government, as much as Texas might like to and might need that money, our TxDOT has decided, well, we're not even going to fund that, so we can't participate in any of those grants Anyway, what this document does is it says, hey, legislators, will you please put some money into this fund so that when a grant comes along that the federal government is offering, we could at least be considered by putting up match money. So let me read this as quickly as I can. I'll hit on the high notes here. Whereas the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, which is called the BIL, which was signed into law in 2021, November of 2021, provides for generational investment in America's intermodal transportation needs. Freight and intercity passenger rail is an integral part of the engine of our economy. Funding programs to be administered by the Federal Railroad Administration will allow for rail improvement projects at the local, regional, and state level to move people and goods. These projects will include eliminating and improving dangerous at-grade highway rail crossings and improve the safety and efficiency of these railroads. That BIL, that bipartisan infrastructure law, can provide funding for the development of industrial rail parks and transload facilities to rural areas to promote economic growth. The state of Texas lost out on its share of over $19 billion in the last decade because there was no state match available for competitive federal grants, and those funds went to other states. The Rail Relocation and Improvement Fund would direct the Texas Department of Transportation and their rail division to be involved in the planning, programming, and construction of projects to move people and goods in our state. And the livelihood of our growing economy depends on strong multimodal transportation networks that include rail. All that to get to this final statement. Therefore, be it resolved that the Commissioners Court of Titus County, duly convened and acting in the capacity as the governing body of Titus County, does hereby petition the state legislature during the 2023 session to address Texas transportation infrastructure needs with a fair share for rail kickstart appropriation to this Rail Relocation and Improvement Fund in an amount determined by the Texas Department of Transportation that would be sufficient to enable the state to compete for matching funds in these federal grant programs. So I don't know how much good it does, but here's our chance for us to tell our legislators what to do with their money. They tell us what to do. Here we are asking them to please put some money into this cookie jar so that it is available when a federal grant comes along. You can't just say, well, we got no match money, so we're not even going to ask. $19 billion over the last decade went to other states to help improve their rail. Texas has plenty of short line railroads. We've got one right here in our backyard. We need these guys to start taking rail more seriously. How much good will this do? I don't know, but with the help of advocates for rail that we are working with, they suggested that all of the 6 counties that participate in NETEX pass a resolution such as this. It doesn't cost us a dime, it just asks our state legislators to do something. So I would ask that you approve this.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Motion to approve this resolution in support of state funding to match competitive federal rail programs made by Commissioner Parker.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitch. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Once again, this will require everyone's signature. Item number 10. I really am not expecting any action on this, but I do think it's time that you start thinking about this and be prepared in the next month or two to make a decision as to what direction you want to go. So I've got in here, discuss the employee benefits cafeteria plan and the January 2023 renewal with possible action. I believe only Jimmy was here the last time we did this. But right now we're working with Ron Fisher and Colonial. They are the ones that provide the benefits in the form of additional life insurance, cancer policies, disability policies. I'm not even sure of what all they offer and what our employees take advantage of. But these are benefits that are paid for by our employees. We utilize Colonial as the entity that offers these, that manages these, that comes in and signs up our employees for these. So the last time we did this, back in 2017, we gave Ron Fisher and his company out of Texarkana a 5-year exclusive to continue to provide those. That 5-year agreement will end in December, and in January we need to decide what you're going to do. So what are your options? Well, you can continue to work with Ron and Colonial. You can extend him 1 year at a time, 2 years. I'm sure he would love another 5 years, but that's not really his decision. Do you want to go out on the open market and talk to other companies? Aflac is one of those that does cafeteria plans. I'm sure that there's lots of them out there. We had Citizen come, I think that was Gary Oliver came several years ago and was offering some form of this. But between now and the end of the year, a decision needs to be made. So I'm not really steering you one way or another. In my personal opinion, Ron and his staff do a great job. Our employees seem to like that, but I don't take advantage of any of those, so I'm not the best one to have a real heartfelt position on this. I want you to be thinking about and talking with your employees and talking with employees within the courthouse. Are you happy with this? Do you want to continue with Colonial? Do you want us to look at some others and see what their offerings are, see if their prices might be any better? That's really the only purpose for this, is just to make you aware of the fact that before year end, we really need to either extend with Colonial or open up the floor for other entities that might want to come in and make a presentation to you on these. Any questions or discussions? If you have a question that I could answer or get an answer for you. Take that as a no. All right. Is there any action at all? If not, I will ask that you table this. And if you think I can bring that, I don't want to jam us up at the end of the year. I would like to get through budget. I think that let's get past the first meeting of September and maybe revisit this in late September or the 1st of October. But if you decide that you want to bring in other companies to do this, I want to give us enough time to interview them if you want to look at other options. So I would recommend you table this and let me put this back on the agenda. First meeting of the month, how about, of September? Would you do that? I really don't think I want to wait till October, November, December.
Judge Lee?
Yes, ma'am. You may.
Whatever company we decide to go with, we'll start making those deductions in December. So the decision whether or not we're going to continue is to be made sooner rather than later. So September is a better time.
First meeting in September, unless we are not finished with budget. How about that? So again, that gives you a month to be thinking about this, talking to your employees, seeing what they feel like. But just like Barbara said, that'll push our deadline even tighter. We'll need to make a decision in October or November if we interview some of these other businesses. and I'm sure she will plead even stronger later on, but keep in mind, anytime you make a change, that is a rather tedious job to completely change over the benefits company that we work with. You know, we're kind of in a groove, and sometimes that's good when you work with the same company over and over. Sometimes you need some fresh air and you need to reconsider starting over, but it will be a big challenge for Barbara and her staff in the month of December if we do make a change. So that's one side of the equation to be considering. Would somebody give me a motion to table unless you have other idea?
I'll make the motion, we table it.
Motion by Commissioner Parker.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 11 is on this agenda because I had a retiree reach out to me and bring this to my attention. I was not otherwise aware of it. But this is to discuss cost of living adjustments for retirees through Tcdrs. We do have the ability, apparently, to make cost of living adjustments to the amount of retirement income that our retirees receive. And as you can imagine, this is of concern to retirees that are on a fixed income, at least as far as the revenues they receive from the county retirement system. They retired a few years ago, many years ago, and because we have a defined benefit plan, they knew on that day that they retired how much their check would continue to be in whatever format they choose to receive those funds, whether it was, you know, just for them or between them and their spouse. They have a number of options, but that money doesn't change. There's not an automatic raise in there like we are fortunate to be able to give ourselves from time to time. And so one reached out there, hey, Judge, how about considering us with 9.1% inflation? You know, this is a tough deal. We have a defined benefit plan, and we all know that. We understand that. We know what our benefits are going to be when it comes time to retire, and we know that there will be continued inflation, whether it's mild, whether it's extreme like it is right now. But obviously somebody would have to pay that. You don't just flip a switch and say, hey, Tcdrs, why don't you start kicking in a COLA adjustment for our retirees? We've already seen significant increase in the cost of just medical insurance for our retirees. Those that qualify for that, we're going to get another increase in what those premiums are. So they, in effect, do continue to get a small increase in the form of that, you know, $1,000 a month, $1,100 a month, whatever that costs. You know, we are having to pay that on behalf of our retirees. So they do get a little bit of help there in that they are still receiving medical insurance at no cost. So this is one of those tough calls here. Is it fair to ask the citizens of the county to fund these COLA adjustments for retirees? I think Barbara did a little bit of research, and so that I don't misquote you, what did you find in looking at other counties and what decisions they've made on this subject?
I found one county, San Patricio County, who's done it one time in 37 years. Found it one other county, not in this area, who's done it one time in 21 years. And I did not find anyone else who had done that. That's not to say it didn't happen, but I looked at the auditor listserv because this is out there as a hot topic right now. And I did not find any other counties that are currently doing it. Now that can change, but that's what I found.
Yeah, and you know, we're in an environment where this is a real concern, and so we may see some others, but I have no idea what it would cost the county if we were to ask Tcdrs to make a COLA adjustment, but I know it isn't going to be cheap. And so I just thought it was wise to go ahead and put this out there, see what you all thought about this. Is this something you want to look into further and find out, you know, what this would take, or is this a subject that you don't want to touch? So there you go.
My opinion is, I don't think the time is, right now is the time to be doing it, so that's my opinion.
Well,
I make a motion that we do not give a cost of living adjustment to retirees.
motion is made by Commissioner Fitch,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parchman. Any comments, further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we get down to talking about tax rates and budget. Let's go to item number 12 and discuss tax rate options as calculated by the Titus County Appraisal District. As you'll recall, that's their responsibility to accumulate the data that they've gathered in the form of property valuations, and they're the ones that come up with these figures, and they tell us what that no new revenue rate is and what the voter approval rate is. And so we're going to discuss that here, along with proposing a tax rate and proposing a budget. I did yesterday, as I was sitting gathering my thoughts for this, I put together something that I would like to read with you just to kind of help guide this discussion, so that you can be thinking about this, and so that the general public at least kind of understands what I'm thinking right now. Commissioners, you have been provided with the 2022-23 budget, which has been assimilated and prepared primarily by our auditor, Barbara Sherbet. I want to express my thanks to Barbara and her staff for compiling all the information that was gathered during our budget workshops and through the numerous conversations that I know she's had with our elected officials and department heads. She puts in a lot of time on this, guys. This is a significant task that she does, and she's clearly the most qualified to do it, but nonetheless. The budget is a 200-page document that relies on past experience, as well as our prudent and conservative assumptions related to both revenue and expenses. We purposely budget conservatively to minimize, if not completely eliminate, the need for mid-year emergency budget amendments. In order to do this, we will typically under-budget revenues and over-budget expenditures, but historically we have a very dependable budget with few surprises. While this may be a curse to some, I believe we are fortunate to finally see some property values taking a modest increase overall. This has not been the case since 2011, when we began to see the erosion of our power plant values that were once approximately $1 billion, billion with a B, down to ultimately a zero valuation, literally in just a matter of half of that time since 2011. Prior to 2011, increasing property values gave the county the ability to increase expenditures without increasing tax rates. In 2022, we find that that is no longer a permissible practice, in that we have a 3.5% limitation on tax increases as a result of actions by our state legislators. It's important that you grasp this concept. Back 2000 to 2010, as that property value of that plant was going up literally millions of dollars, hundreds of millions per year, it was easy to keep our tax rate low. No tax increase this year, but yet we were giving out raises and we were doing other things that we had to do. But it was able to be, I won't say hidden, but it was able to be done without increasing that rate. Not the case anymore. Our legislators have capped us. To exceed that 3.5% threshold now requires a special vote of approval from our taxpayers. We certainly want to avoid that, at least as long as we can. But the reality is that our expenses are going up at a rate that exceeds that limitation of 3.5%. Consequently, you're going to find this budget reflects greater expenses than revenues. Fortunately, through sound budgeting practices, we continue to have a very strong fund balance for a county of our size. In fact, we should probably reduce our fund balance and maintain the lowest rate that we can. And I think that we've budgeted to do that, to start lowering our fund balance, but we've continued to be blessed with things like increasing sales tax revenue. And so we continue to see a super strong fund balance. This budget includes the largest pay raise our employees have gotten in my 12 years in office, a 10% increase in total to each department. In light of the fact that we went for many years with no raises or nominal raises, this 10% increase is absolutely justified. In addition, inflation is putting pressure on all county department expenditures at a rate that's outpacing our ability to raise taxes without voter approval. This is going to be my last budget before I retire. I worry about the future ability of the Commissioners Court to maintain a sound fund balance in light of continued unfunded mandates and state-imposed revenue limitations. This 2022-23 budget is a sound document, and I believe it accurately reflects anticipated revenues and expenses to the best of our ability. I recommend that you approve the proposed budget. Along with that, I strongly recommend that you set the tax rate at least at the voter approval rate, which will still result in a little over a 4-cent reduction in the rate compared to last year. That's how much our property values have gone up. We can keep a voter approval rate and still see a reduction of 4 cents. Once again, thanks, Barbara, for pushing us hard to have this budget completed right about a month earlier than we have done in the years past. I hope that we can conclude August with an approved budget and tax rate for the new fiscal year. So that kind of tells you what I'm thinking, but now let's flip over here and look at this document that Shirley Dickerson has worked out and Barbara has put in a very simple, easy to understand format. You've got the current tax rate, the no new revenue rate, and the voter approval rate. One other thing I want to make you aware of, there is another rate which is not reflected on here called the de minimis rate. In a county of our size, in fact in any county, you have that 3.5% limitation or $500,000, whichever is larger. In our case, we could go even a little bit higher than the voter approval rate without having to have that special election. So it's in effect another voter approval rate where you wouldn't have to you would not have to have an election. That rate is not reflected on this chart, but I'm going to tell you what that is. It's 0.4335. So a little bit above that voter approval rate there that you see of 0.4263. That would allow you to raise a little bit more revenue there and not exceed that $500,000. So that's a little bit, that's an item that really is not discussed a whole lot. Most people talk about the voter approval rate, where here you could actually exceed that voter approval rate for our county because we're not able, but that 3.5% will not raise that minimum acceptable $500,000. So you see our current tax rate there of 0.4669, the no new revenue rate of 0.4050. So if you went with a no new revenue rate, in other words, the rate that brings in theoretically the same amount as the year prior, you could go down 5 cents. 6 cents, I'm sorry. It's a little over 6 cents. The voter approval rate of 0.4263 still enables you to come down just a hair over 4 cents. If you look at that note at the bottom, these calculations are based on a collection rate of 94.95 as determined by Melissa Stevens right there. The prior year collection rate was 97.5. And I don't know what all gyrations you go through to come up with that, but basically what you're telling us is the collections are not based on trends or what? And so, again, don't yell at Melissa. She's just telling you this is reality. And whereas in the good old days, we were probably at 98% there for years.
We will get to the 100%. It just takes years and years for everyone to get.
But we've got to live with what actuals are. And if within that budget year you only collect a certain amount, Melissa's telling you we're expecting to bring in about 95% instead of 100%. So that is factored in this as well. So I don't think anybody in this room wants to have to go to the voters and say, we need a special election so that you will allow us to raise the rate beyond that voter approval rate. If there is anyone, raise your hand here and we can talk about that, but I don't think anybody wants to do that, myself included. The no new revenue rate would be foolish. We know that we are requiring this year a considerable more amount in expenditures than in prior year. Inflation takes a toll on us as well. We've given a 10% raise that has been certainly due and in order. We are going to have higher costs related to fire protection. We know why that is. Our insurance costs have gone up. Across the board, I don't think there's anything that's going down in the way of expenses. So to take on a no new revenue rate, not only does this affect you this year, but that would affect you in future years because you'll still be hitting your head on that 3.5% increase. And so if you don't take what you can get this year to try to keep up with those minimum expenditures, you're going to find yourself eroding your fund balance quickly. And then all of a sudden you're going to have to catch up and you're going to be gasping for breath and possibly exceeding that voter approval rate and having to go to the voters. I don't think there's anything at all wise about going with the no new revenue rate. So somewhere between there and 4.4263, which is the voter approval rate, is the flexibility that you have. That voter approval rate of 42.63 is the highest that you can go without having a special election for approval, except for, like I said, that de minimis rate, which would bring in an additional $500,000. That takes it up to 43.35. So you could go there and exceed that voter approval rate. Barbara, anything you want to say before these guys ask their questions?
The de minimis rate at .4335 would bring us $182,000 more dollars in addition to the number that's here. So the current voter approval rate will bring us $332,000, and if we increase it into the minimis, it will bring us an additional $182,000, which gets us to the $500,000 amount. Now, keep in mind that with the salary increases alone that we have designated at 10% in benefits, that's $993,000. That's something we have to fund every year. And that's before we talk about any additional increases for the fire department, other items needed during the budget process.
I'm going to make a motion. We go with the de minimis rate at 0.4335%.
Jumped right out there. I've got a motion on the floor to go with .4335.
That still drops it quite a bit, but like I say, it keeps it safe.
Yeah, thank you, James. Really, what we're on right now is not an action item. We'll get there here real quickly, but we're still just kind of looking at the different options. And if we're ready to close out that discussion, we'll move on to taking a record vote on that proposed rate. So I appreciate your leadership there, but let me wrap up item number 12. Is there anybody else that needs any further discussion about the rate options that have been provided for you by Barbara and Shirley? Everybody have a clear understanding what all those different rates are? Okay, now I'm opening up and moving on to item number 13. Consider and possibly take a record vote on a proposed tax rate for 2022. Now I think would be the right time for Jeff's motion, and I'll accept that motion to propose a tax rate at 43.3544, .433544, which is the de minimis rate. We will round that off to .4335. And again, that's that special additional extra over and above the voter approval rate that we are allowed to do with a $500,000 maximum. And Barbara's just told you that that gets you an extra $180,000 over the voter approval rate, which brings you to 332
332 plus what it takes to get, plus another 180,000 to get to 500,000.
Yeah,
And Judge Lee, we can go to that de minimis rate without having an election, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is an important decision. Don't, don't rush anything here. And this is a time for you to discuss all you want.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I don't want to second that one just yet. I'd like to cut it a sheer nickel off our tax rate and leave our tax rate, put it at 4169. And I want to put that on the table.
Can I ask what your thought process there is?
Just to cut our taxes.
Okay. Would you rather cut the budget or cut the rate?
Well, if we need any more, if we can't make it on that, on that budget, we could always. How do you do that mid-year? Pull money from our general fund balance. How do you do that? Since that's grown so much.
Well, you're already doing that as it is. You're pulling you're drawing down on your fund balance significantly. Whether you go with any of these rates, you're drawing down on it because your expenses significantly outpace your revenue. And so if you'll look at the document, yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there. I also like that voter approval rate, 4263. Could we be able to do that and do this budget that we've made up on the 4263? I like that 4-cent cut too.
You can do anything that you want. It's easy to do this year because you're sitting on an $8 million fund balance, and we probably realistically need between 4 and 5. But we've historically kept a good, solid fund balance for when times come and we do need those. But I don't want to see you and me especially strap these other three with problems down the road. we have easy decisions this year. If we were looking at this year and that's all we had to worry about, it'd be one thing. But we've got to set these guys up for success going forward. And I just don't think that you've got to realize the significance of this 3.5% cap that the legislature has put on us in the last couple of years after 2 years of significant inflation. There's going to be a lot of hurting counties, I think, this year. Not even thinking about going on in the future, but I don't think that it's wise. I couldn't support not giving these guys a good foundation for the next few years. So I sure wouldn't go below the voter approval rate at 42.63.
And that's what I'm leaning toward.
Okay, that's. Again, you've heard that $180,000 is what it would bring in if you went to the de minimis over the voter approval rate. That's not going to make or break you, but what you forego this year, you forego every year ahead too, because of that limitation. Number 3 and number 4, any thoughts?
I just wanted to verify that the administrative for the election, not if the administrative was over the voter approval rate, if we would not have to have an election. You are correct about that. But if we do the proposed rate for the minimis rate, and you all approve the minimis rate, and that rate is over the voter approval rate, I just want to bring it to your attention that the citizens of Titus County can do
They could. Yes, you're right. Thank you.
5% of the voters in the injunction, we will have to have.
That's a good point, and I do know that, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, I just wanted to make that aware.
Yeah.
We can do that minimis rate without the voter approval rate in the election, but there's always that little bit of, and I don't know how many registered voters we have in Titus County,
Well, you still got to continue, you still got to consider that as a possibility. So if you understood that, if you exceeded that voter approval rate, you don't have to have an election, but they could put together an election and
That's
bring
what
you
I was
back.
sitting here thinking of. I thought that's what it was, and I was
Yeah, that's
sitting here
an
thinking
important
of
part
that.
of the equation, so thank you.
I'm still just leaning towards the voter approval rate. I know we with that 3.5 cent cap on us, we've got to keep up with inflation like it is now, and all of that. We've got to try to stay ahead of that, and still not go. I pay taxes just like everybody else does, and I don't like them, but we've got to stay in line with the way everything's going. So,
And you can't rely on, well, the property values are going to continue to go up.
yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're capped at 3.5%.
At some point, that can stop.
Well, but even still, it's going to enable that rate to keep coming down, but it's not going to enable you to easily raise your revenue because you're capped at 3.5% until the legislature realizes that they've erred. Thank you. Commissioner Applewhite, any thoughts for
to
us?
the voter approval rate, and like I said, we don't need, because if you go dimensional, whatever that rate is,
De minimis.
it's probably gonna come back and bite us, because I think that 20,000, you're gonna get 2,000 people. That's what, 10% of it?
5%.
Yeah. So
And I'm trying to think back on my classes I think they would really have it. So it's not like October 1st they have people that stuff. I believe it's like somewhere in December that they do this. So that would throw us into an election, and then we would be doing brand new tax statements out, and we would be refunding people.
Is that why your hand's shaking over there?
Well, that's my, but it could cost the county a lot of money if we'd done this and they went on. Yeah.
It could and it couldn't. I mean, you're literally taking a chance of an election. And all this money that y'all do get in October and November with all these resolutions, people, the county gives that, that discount of paying early. Just think if we had an election in December, I'd be up here till midnight writing income checks to everybody.
Not my problem. No, I'm kidding. And I'm very glad you brought this up, because that is very important to know. How good of a sell job you could do to keep that from happening, I don't know. Is it worth it over $180,000? I don't know. This year it may not be. Next year or the year after that, it is going to become, the day is going to come, and we're better prepared for this than probably 95% of the counties. Because even those counties that are blessed with oil and all these other natural resources, they're going to be facing this 3.5% cap.
Can I withdraw that motion on that?
Sure.
Okay, I would try. Voters have 9 days to submit a petition for the vote to even take place until 2023.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Motion is withdrawn. We're back at square one.
Make a motion that we set it at .4263.
Motion is made by Commissioner Fitch that we propose a tax rate of .4263, which consists of an M&O rate of .3734 and an INS rate for debt service of .0529. And that rate that has been proposed by Commissioner Fitch is exactly the voter approval rate, which means that we can go to that rate without having an election and without risking I'll call it a rollback election, for lack of a better word. I think there's another word for it, but.
I'll second that.
Motion is seconded by Commissioner Parchman. Any other discussion? Anybody not dead, solid, certain that's what you want to do, then convince us otherwise.
One thing, Judge Lee. The calculated rate that Charlie Dickerson has given us for the voter approval rate is .426338. So in keeping with historically how Titus County has done that, the rate that you proposed today is .4263. That leaves the 38 on the end marked off. So it's proof to our voters that we are indeed setting a rate less than the voter approval rate, right at it, but less than that.
All right. Here we go. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. We are unanimous in the proposed rate. Now, having done that, let's move on to item number 14. Consider and possibly take a record vote on a proposed budget. This is not the final budget vote. That cannot occur until at least the next meeting, and we all will have a tax rate and budget hearing at that same time in 2 weeks from today.
Make a motion to approve the proposed budget.
Motion is made by Commissioner Fitch to propose a budget as we have it today that has been filed. Second comes from Commissioner Parchman. Comments, questions? All in favor of proposing the current budget? as it stands, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And again, we'll be back if I can't think of any reason why we would have to delay it, but I will plan to have our final vote to approve the tax rate and the budget at our next meeting in 2 weeks, which means we will be done, theoretically, with the budget process for the new year by the end of August. All right, we are down to item number 15, approve oral and written reports.
Make a motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Applewhite,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fitch. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 16, consider and possibly approve the treasurer's report.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's.
Motion is made by Commissioner Parchman to approve the treasurer's report, and a second by Commissioner Applewhite. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Take a moment to get you to sign these documents. Item number 17, approve budget amendments. We have budget amendment number 24 for the current year. This reflects Precinct 4 and the County Clerk Records Management Fund. In Precinct 4, we are asking to increase the gas and oil and decrease the road oil due to increase in fuel prices and the need to fill our tanks. So that pulls $12,000 out of the road oil budget and puts it into the gas and oil budget, $12,000. The second half of this affects the county clerk's records management. We want to increase records management and have an offsetting decrease to computer expense due to the need to update and protect county clerk documents and records. That's a $1,000 adjustment there within those two expense accounts. That's all I have for budget amendments.
Make a motion to approve the budget.
Budget amendment number 24, motion to approve by Commissioner Applewhite.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 18, sign pay orders and approve payment of our current set of bills.
Make a motion to pay our bills.
Motion by Commissioner Parker.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Applewhite. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 19, closing comments. Good meeting. Got good information from Nathan, and that is something that I want you to continue thinking about. By having that discussion today, he got me to where I now understand why there's a justification or the rationale behind asking the county for money to support in the effort towards economic development. All right, this past Friday afternoon, I had a second Zoom call meeting with the two gentlemen from the Texas Historic Commission that have been putting together some general renderings of the front of the annex building. And as you'll recall, we've been interested in doing that, and their charge was to come up with something relatively inexpensive that wouldn't cause us to put too much money in a building that I still think will eventually be replaced. And I am pleased with the last drawings that we've got. I don't have anything to show you at this meeting because I didn't want to muddy the water with all these other things we had going on, but I will get you a copy of that if you would like to see that. I would describe it as simple in form. It is if you're familiar with the term mid-century modern, that is a hot topic in the world of design these days, but it brings back some of the elements of the 50s, I would call it, 40s and 50s into the design. It is simple enough where it doesn't clash with anything else. It puts some seating areas there in front of the annex in the form of benches, and it gives a little, this is a term that I learned, a parklet, P-A-R-K-L-E-T, is a little segregated seating area that is created over there. I would call it kind of just this side of Judge Ralston's office out there that might eat up a couple of parking places, but it would give some semi-covered seating area with tables for people to gather so that the attorneys and their clients are not having to stand out there with their legal pad and just stand out there in front of the annex. So it gives kind of a neat look, but we'll talk more about that. And that is not a set of architectural drawings. That is just a suggestion for the front look, and then we would have to turn it over to an architectural team to put that into something that would develop some working drawings to give to a contractor. So I hope you like it. I like it. I'll share that with everybody, and we'll get comments. The city will do the same thing through their Main Street committee. That's all I have. Commissioner Parker? Commissioner Applewhite?
I'd like to say condolences and stuff from Tim Ingram. His brother had passed away, and this past weekend, older brother.
Was he sick? Has he been
I
sick?
think he had a heart attack. And is that right? And I just want to express condolences to his family and prayers for his family.
What was his brother's name? Mike Ingram. Where did he live?
Texarkana.
Texarkana. I want to keep him in
Yeah,
prayers.
thank you. Commissioner Fitch?
I'm good.
Commissioner Parchman?
I want to go back to what Nathan was saying earlier about that $600,000. I think that's going to be a lot of money to be spent. I want you guys to just think about that. Even if that ARP money was approved on it, I still would like to use ARP money towards the county projects versus that. And consider that we, just give out a bunch of raises, and we got a fire contract to think about too. So I just think $600,000 right now is a little steep.
Well, that ain't guaranteed anyway. I just like to have it be a guarantee, that we're going to get something back out of it.
Right.
Well, and it may be something that you start at a smaller level and you can work up, as the years go by. I agree. That's a pretty hefty first ask. All right. If there's nothing else.
I just want to thank all y'all for allowing me to start this budget process early. Judge Lee, you were the leader of that. Thank you. We are required from Senate Bill 1357 to file this with the county clerk by August the 15th. We will file it on Friday, John, in your office. We don't want to wait till Monday. But I thank you very much. There's been a lot of decisions made, a lot of meetings to attend, a lot of work to be done. And big thank you to you today for taking care of that research. Thank y'all.
Well, you're modest. All right.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make it motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.